My name is Tulani Ngana. Today I have two gentlemen from Zapu. Just in a minute, I will ask them to introduce themselves. However, before that, we should remember that Zapu is one of the first liberation movements in Zimbabwe. It was, or it is, one of the authentic liberation movements in Southern Africa. Unfortunately, it is one of those authentic liberation movements which did not rule or take over power after the liberation struggle. We know that this year in December, this very month, it will be turning 60 years. That's a great milestone for a party. That's the reason why we are here today. The gentlemen in a celebratory and reflective mood. We will be talking about Zapu's milestones since its birth up to now. Gentlemen, I welcome you on Mathebula Broadcasting Corporation. You may introduce yourselves.
Thank you very much. What to call it in my name is Nkala Canisius. I am Zapu, South Africa Secretary for Information and Publicity and the spokesperson of Zapu, South Africa. I come from Rwanda, where I've been the party's parliamentary candidate in 2018 in Rwanda Central.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. Mr. Chamela.
Thank you very much, Babunkala. I am Washington Jamela. I am the deputy spokesperson for the party. I am a member of the National Executive Committee. I was I am the former chairperson for Zapu in the USA. I originally come from Umzingwa district.
Oh, okay. That's good. Thanks very much. Thanks very much for your short introduction. Today, we are here about Zapu. As we know, it is turning 60 years. But before we jump into celebrations, let us reflect a little bit. Let us move back and start right from the beginning. Any one of you, if you don't mind, if you could just tell us the circumstances which led to the formation of Zapu. What was happening? Why was it formed? Why was it necessary for Zapu to be formed at that time?
Well, I would like to, take a step at that before I pass it on to the young person on our panel today. Actually, we are an organization with a very, very deep history. The reasons that led to the formation of the party are many, but mainly the main one was the issue of land, the colonization, by the minority regime that ruled the country from way back up to the time when the party was formed. We definitely came together as a people to say enough is enough of what was going on at the time. And some heads were put together and we ended up with a party that we call Zapu today, where land is back to its people. I mean, by its people, I mean everyone, not just the well-connected, the elite, and the corrupt ones.
Okay, I don't know, Mr. Nkala, whether I would like to add something there.
It's important for us to note that at that very time, there was colonialism, which was disenfranchising the black majority. Only the white minority were voting at that time. There was quite a lot of oppression on its own, the creation of the reserves, which was the taking away of the land that he talks about. Quite a lot of efforts were done to try to negotiate while it was still the African National Congress of Southern Rhodesia at that time, which was the African National Congress of Rhodesia at that time. And then they were banned for trying to negotiate peacefully. There were so many bans that actually then ended up leading to Zapu being formed. And the Zapu being formed now with a very, very straightforward rule to say, we are going to fight, and they were going to take up arms and fight. And they were not going to any point flinch to say that even if it becomes difficult, Zapu must always emerge out of any difficult situation that is going to be, even if it means it is actually subdued. It must always understand that it will be subdued, but it must come back. One of the key figures that were part of Zapu was one of my grandfathers, Lazarus Nkala. Lazarus Nkala, ngukulo mdala ngoba uba ukhulu wami uncane kuye bazalwa bonke.
Zapu will be turning 60. So if you don't mind, if you can tell us, when was it formed?
It was formed on the 17th of December, 1961. So that making it this year the diamond anniversary, which is the 60th anniversary of Zapu. Some might not understand. Some will say Zapu never existed. But if you understand the statement that I spoke about in the beginning, that Zapu was put at a position whereby even if it is subdued, it must come back and still fight for the oppressed. So 1961, they finally said, we are done with negotiating. We are going to fight for the liberation of our people.
Okay, no, that's good. You have already answered one of my questions, of course, partly, because I'm interested in knowing at personality, leadership or leaders who were part of the formation of Zapu.
Well, we had a lot of people that were involved in the formation of Zapu, obviously beginning with one of our well-known founding fathers, Joshua Nkomo himself, and many, many, many others. Some that today we are at loath to mention their names because they betrayed the struggle and went, wayward, formed their own party deceitfully. And the result of that deceit is what we have today in Zimbabwe.
Okay, yeah. I don't know whether Mr. Nkala would like to add.
In actual fact, there was quite a lot of leaders that were involved in the beginning of the struggle. Even before the formation of Zapu, we know that there was so many student movements, the regime movements that were there at that time, where people were not in actually understanding each other to say, let's go in this direction, which ironed the direction that came with Zapu. So there were leaders like David Parenyatwa, there were leaders like Ostole, the ones that we say we loathe to talk about, because along the way, they forgot to understand the meaning of representing people. They decided to represent themselves. And quite a lot that go even to the likes of Umzorewa, where they were asked to form a decoy movement, but then they ended up making the decoy movement into parties, whereby we are saying that what we see today in the Zimbabwean politics is not new. One would say, when I look at certain politicians, when they do their work, I will name them according to the former politicians that are there. And I say, we've got the Zitoles of these days, we've got the Mzorewas of these days, we've got the Chiraus of today, we've got chiefs that got involved, and so much they thought that they were immune to certain things. But what matters most is that Zapu was made up of people that were coming from people. Zapu was made up of provinces, of leaders in provinces. I remember one name that stands out, Matsimba Muto, a man from Anikaland. Another name that stands out from Mashonaland West, Josiah Chinamano. Another name that stands out from Mashonaland Central, Joseph Msika. Another name that can stand out for us from, let's say, Midlands, Sifas Msipa. A name that stands out for us from people that were coming from Mati North, Mr. Welshman Mabena. Another name that can stand out for us, the likes of Abo Squili Moyo, the likes of Abo Tafi Moyo, the likes of Abo, there's quite a lot, Abo Sidney Malunga, the young ones, Dumiso Tabengwa, the young ones, Ojinin Tuta, the young ones that had died because of this struggle. Along the lane, it was us losing people, but the great leaders in the women like Tenjwele Sabe, like Omamu Ruth Chinamano, the likes of so many of that we had, Jane Ngwenya at that time. What was Zapu, what was great about the movement was not the individuals, but the team that was there. The Jason Ziapapa Moyos, the Lookout Masugus, the Mangenas, and all that were there, even in the military command. All that some unsung heroes that we can talk about, Sharpshooter and others. But what was best was that everyone was bringing what they had.
Mm-hmm. No, that's excellent. But you know why I'm asking about the leadership is because most movements, most organizations, they are what they are because of their leaders. We realize that Zapu did not take over power or win elections. Was it because of the leaders who couldn't stand up and fight against those who were opposed to what they stood for? Or what was it exactly?
When it came to the settlement, that was, you're talking about the period between, I would say the mid-70s, right through to 1980, actually. A lot of factors came into play that, people might, today look back and dissect them this way or that way. But the bottom line was that the Zapu, we know today, and the Zapu of back then believed in a one Zimbabwe that was democratic, very representative of its people, and its mission, which was to give everyone a fair share, of the Zimbabwean slice. So what transpired then was a lot of, what I would call chickenery that actually led to perhaps the party not winning outright victory in the polls. There was cheating that was involved, that included a lot of the Western major powers, Britain, the United States, and some of those that hated Zapu's association with the then Soviet Union. It's really a lot of factors that we can go into that led to perhaps the situation that we ended up with. But the main one really is because we found the party found itself caught between a situation where they were either forced to continue to fight or to accept a situation that was obviously not fair or untenable for them. But at the time, peace was the right, thing to choose. You have a situation where you see things are going wrong, a lot of things are going wrong, but to fix that problem, you have to either fight and look bad in the face of the world, because here you are, you have very, very strong countries like the United States and Britain saying, come to the table, and they already have a chosen candidate or party that they want to lead post Rhodesia. So if you don't come to the table and you choose to fight, you look like you are in it for yourself as a party, not so much to liberate the country. Because what are you fighting for when everybody else is saying, let's come to the table, let's sit down and talk and end this thing as peacefully as we can get?
Oh, okay. While you are there, I'll come to you, Mr. Kalapar. For now, let me ask Mr. Chamela. Yes. Mr. Chamela, was it meekness? Was it weakness? Because if we look at some incidents, like in Tanzania, we find that the zebra forces were being attacked in Morogoro and in Kakao, and even during the zebra time in Mozambique. Zebra or Zapu have always been on the receiving end from ZANU-PF. But then Zapu or Zebra, then they accept to be cheated at the end.
I do not think it's as that's oversimplification of a very, very complex situation. So it's not like a question of Zapu accepting being cheated or being ill-treated. If you are facing a person or a situation where the other person really doesn't care about the outcome, you know, they are in it for themselves, you know, you don't go in and fight them, you know, you know, and if I can put it that way. So Zapu always understood that at the end of the day, you know, we still need to come out of this war with a country that can be governed and developed and be moved forward. So that was the main goal. There was no cowardice in it. There was no what was the other word that you used to describe?
Weakness or meekness, things like that.
Weakness you cannot use weak and Zapu in the same sentence. Absolutely not. We had the strongest force, you know, in Africa south of the Sahara. So let's be clear about that. So we could have gone in and fought and destroyed all the other opponents that we had in front of us. But at what cost? At what cost? That's what the party looked at. That's what the leadership looked at the time. And it's easy to sit back and look back and in hindsight, because now you know what was going on behind the scenes here. Now you know what Mugabe was thinking. You know all those things. It's easier now to say, oh, they should have done this, they should have done this. But at the time, some of these things were not quite clear. So it's not easy to actually go back and chastise and criticize the leadership of the time based on the decision that they made, at the time.
Yeah, Mr. Chamela, I think we are at a stage whereby we need to be critical. We need to really reflect, think, and analyze the situation where Zapu went wrong. Because if you cannot do that, how do you expect to go right in the future? Yes, you might talk about that maybe because of hindsight. People can criticize because they have seen what they have seen. But Zapu, we know that, as you have said yourself, was one of the strongest political parties and even militarily.
Absolutely.
And it had an intelligence department as well.
Absolutely.
So I do not understand that they did not know what was happening. they did not know what ZANU was planning. Is it what you are telling me, that they did not know?
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say they didn't know what ZANU was planning. You know, what I said was the choice they made, the decision that they took, you know, was based on what was in front of them at the time. So I could go on and say a lot of things that to appease people today and say, the decision could have been this or that, but that's not the point. We've actually, I'll go back to why, because we cannot talk about Zapu today without mentioning that we pulled out of the Unity Accord. So when we did that, a lot of reflection was done. A lot of thought went into that, so that we do not make the same mistakes that were made before. I'm not going to say exactly strategically what we have decided to do or what the party is deciding to do moving forward, but I can assure you that we are wiser, we are smarter, we are not going to make the same mistakes that were made before. A lot of reflection went into pulling out of the Unity Accord and regrouping and putting together a party that's going to be formidable going into the future. A lot of lessons were learned, from all the mistakes, if you want to call it that were made in the past, So now we're better prepared moving forward.
Okay, no, thank you. Mr. Nkala, I don't know whether I would like to add.
Okay, no, I would like to say that actually we cannot say that decisions that were taken were wrong, facing the circumstances that were there, and also looking at the reasons that were there or what was against Zapu. Zapu had intelligence, and I agree that there was a lot of intelligence into the decision that was taken. Because if you look at the reflection of Zapu pulling out, when Zapu is pulling out, it is headed by the intelligence. It is headed by the Supremo Intelligentsia, Dumiso Tabengwa, and some other people that we knew were in Zapu's NSO, National Security Organ. So somehow they gave a report to the leadership, and the leadership had to reflect and look at the right decisions to take. If we were to look at it specifically and very well and say what exactly was it, capitalism versus socialism was the war that was there. So the capitalists had already grabbed into Zimbabwe. And there they were, the capitalists, also the threat of what? Of South Africa, the apartheid government. They would have either opted to work with the apartheid government because they were going to be stopping Zapu and MK. So that would have actually caused quite a devastating future into the struggle, not only for Zimbabwe, but also for South Africa and other countries that were to come, Namibia and others, and even Angola. So they looked at a broader picture of Zimbabwe becoming the nucleus of the new war that was to come. And then they looked at what exactly ZANU was capable of doing and what it was doing on the ground, killing the people. The possibilities of them burying Zapu was there by killing Zapu members and their children. But now you have to salvage and save something. So the reflection is true. There was a lot of reflection that was taken into consideration. I was 25 years when Zapu pulled out. I just came to South Africa in 2008, and we were called to a meeting. As an ex-Zimbabwe Prison Service and military police trained personnel, I had already seen quite a lot of things about Zimbabwe and about what was happening within even the uniformed forces themselves. And most of the people that were there, you were talking of retired colonels, retired major generals, and other people that were pulling out Zapu. Those guys knew what they were doing. And they knew what they were looking at. And when they armed us to say, guys, when you are going into this, do not buy into the rhetorics, because the rhetorics that were used by the capitalists, the rhetoric was to make sure that they divide us and rule us. So the divide and rule was, let's make this politics tribal in whatever way we can make it. So we have to make sure that we avoid stepping on those set up rhetorics that can actually self-destroy us. and understand. That is why when we look at the ideology then and the ideology now, the ideology then was of a society, and which was called socialism. But the ideology now in Zapu is of a society that is liberated, which needs to express itself, which is devolution. So maximum, let's celebrate our differences. That's what Zapu says. Let's accept we have moved past the fighting spirit. We have gone into the time whereby we need to govern our people. But while least governing them, let's give them the power to talk, and let us be leaders that listen and implement. Let us not be the power. Let the people be the power.
My next question about the ideology. What was the ideology then and what is the ideology now? You have told me that it was socialism. Now is devolution of power.
Yes.
Is devolution of power really an ideology? And what is it really based on?
Well, devolution of power becomes the ideological shaper, or we can say the governance implementation program, whereby we're saying this is the practicality of what we're going to do. We are going to consult the people more than think for the people. We are going to hear from the people. We're going to structure it starting from the grassroots, so that if it's a governance policy, if it is a bill, let us know that it is coming from the people. If I'm going to parliament, let me be reflective of what the people want. Let me not assume that the people want this, but let me be reflective and let me be able to coin what I call legislature according to what we have, not according to what may be, but not practicality. So if you can say it cannot be an ideology, but what is an ideology? It's what shapes the action. It's what shapes the living of us as people. It's what shapes the governance of the people. It's what shapes what we're going to be to the people. Either we are dictatorial or we are consultative.
I'm looking at this from this angle. It has been almost 40 years since independence. And once you come with an ideology, it means you have read the material circumstances of what is happening in the country and where you want to take the country to. You would have said, yes, this is what is happening in the country, 1, 2, 3. And this ideology that I'm proposing will help to move the country to this stage that I want it to. So in terms of devolution, I'm trying to understand, why did you choose devolution of power?
Okay, I'll answer that. It's a very simple thing. We have got a country that has got, according to me, 18 tribes in it. 36 tribes, actually. The 36 tribes are subdivided into 2 groups. One called the Ndebele, a group of tribes. The other called the Shona group of tribes. These people have got commonalities, and yet they have differences. But then those, if they are celebrated, they build into one country that we call Zimbabwe. Understanding the reflection of what Zimbabwe itself means, it's a house of stone. It is the great Zimbabwe. It is how the stones sit on each other. It is a connectivity of different stones of different shapes that will make up a building, and that building physically seen by somebody far there be called one. Yet we know that each stone has got a different shape, and that its different shape is celebrated. So in Zimbabwe, the problem in our politics, in our economics, in our everything that we do, is the lack of understanding how to coherently or simultaneously lead all these people into one direction. So it's a reflective understanding of remove a system that will give another person an opportunity to oppress another. Devolution does not allow that. it allows us to say, let the 20 that say bangamangwane njengathi, amaSwati, be able to be celebrated with their Swati tradition. Allow us to dress as we want. Ningagqoki this so that somebody is happy because it defines me. And me be able to celebrate meeting another person wearing their vendor tradition. And meeting another person wearing their what? Their karanga or korokore, what a tradition, and be able to understand reflectively as a one people that when we go out there, we can partner and go and do something collectively. When we get into parliament, we'll be able not to say because I have to put this rule because in Indawo Mzingwane or Umuzwamangwane and the other areas surrounding it where the Angwane people, there is gold. Then I say the policy is going to be about gold. Those without gold, I do not consider anything on that. No, devolution of power celebrates the diversity, celebrates the resources. If there are no resources that one can say these are dug up resources, the people are the first resource. Under devolution of power.
Mr. Nkala, all right. Thank you for that. Mr. Chamela, I don't know whether I would like to add on what Mr. Nkala has just said.
Absolutely. First of all, I just want to, again, this is Zapu showcasing what Umdalunkomo said when he said the country will not die, young people will rescue it. Unkala right there is rescuing the country. We are so proud. So to add on to what he was saying and what you asked about devolution of power, remember, each of all these provinces that the country has is unique. So that uniqueness means that only the people in that area know and understand their situations better than somebody sitting out there in a centralized office in Harare and making decisions. So in a devolved state, we have a situation where Unkala is coming from Mzingwane, taking the issues that are only, pertinent to Mzingwane district, and not talking for a guy who's sitting in, who's coming from Chiawadza, for example, because those guys are diamonds, Tina Snamakimbi, we have other things as well. So I want to talk to things that I know. I want to talk to things that matter to me before I meet up with the rest of the country to make up a team that will form Zimbabwe that can talk on all these diverse issues. But first and foremost, I have to be able to speak to my issues and my issues alone that pertain to my current situation. So in a devolved state, we're able to do that. And then we're able also to work together now with the rest of the country to say, okay, you guys, what do you have? What are your issues? And then those issues are put together. Now we have a national government. But it has to start from right at the bottom. It has to start from that constituency level, that district level, that province level, where people, first of all, address their own issues within their own, little areas, and expanding all the way right through to the country. So devolution is the way forward.
Yeah. What are you trying to correct by devolution?
We are trying to correct a lot of problems that a centralized ZANU-PF government has created. For example, coming from Mad South, we have something that might seem as little as issue Yamaklimbi, for example. Okay? Yamaklimbi are a God-given phenomenon that happens in our mainly in our region. So we are proud of it. We are very thankful for being gifted with that naturally occurring resource, which is food, right? So we want to be the first ones to actually sell that to the rest of the country if we so choose to do, you know. So we want to address situations like those. So we want to develop coming from using what we have in our own backyard. People in Chiawaza that had diamonds, they needed to benefit from the diamonds themselves before we collectively, as a country, maybe from taxes and other things, the revenues coming from those diamonds benefit. But they needed to benefit first because the diamonds are in their area, in their province, in their devolved area. They needed to have roads developed from that money. They needed to have schools. If you go there, you needed to see that definitely this place has diamonds because the people there are living like a people that are benefiting from a natural resource that is found in their region. But that did not happen simply because every decision was being made in Harare in a centralized system. So all that wealth from Chiawaza was sucked, by the people in Harare. And all the money was spent. The people in Chiawaza were left with nothing. All you can see now if you go there is all the destroyed roads by the big trucks that were going in there to dig and destroy the environment and things like that. So we want to correct all those things. We want to make sure that the gold that is found in my area is mined by me and my neighbors and all the other people in my region. If we need extra help, we should be the one making those decisions. We should be the ones reaching out to our people in other areas to say, we need such and such expertise to come and help us, to dig out our gold, because all our, our human resources right now are busy. We need extra help. We need
Mr. Jamela,
yes.
I don't see any difference between you and the leaders of yesteryear.
Okay.
You are very diplomatic. That's what Zapu leaders have been. They've been nation builders. They've been very good leaders. However, they do not tackle the issue. They do not tackle the problem. Now you are failing to say in Zimbabwe, the problem is tribalism. You are failing to say such pertinent things, but you are quoting them, sugarcoating them, telling me exactly what I'm telling you in one way, but in many nicer ways. Why are you so diplomatic?
But I touched on that.
I do not think that being diplomatic is wrong. We can address issues without being disagreeable and using words that might be confrontational, if you will. However, tribalism is an issue that we feel very strongly about. This has nothing to do with Zapu or its leadership or anyone else for that matter. We take, any ism of any kind very, very strongly. I mean, if I, like I said, I mean, I am from Umzinwara district. When I go there, I want to feel at home, okay? I do not want to have to use English just to communicate when I'm in my area, okay? So I want to feel at home. I want to be able to express myself in a way that I have always known. So tribalism, yes, is a big issue. That's a ZANU, card that they have played, to their advantage, and people went along with it. We are not afraid to use to say it. I'm saying it today. Tribalism is a ZANU thing, and they are using very, very effectively. The thing is, I do not think that name calling actually moves the needle forward. It actually does not. It can rile people. to maybe, come across as tough and strong and all the like. But at the end of the day, it's about solving the problem. Are we solving the problem? Are we making the other person understand why I feel the way I do? Because remember, ZANU has used so much propaganda that there are people who actually are completely blind and oblivious to all these issues that has to do with tribalism.
Mm-hmm. Zapu,
yes,
has been in the political field, in the playing field for a long time.
Absolutely.
As Zapu, what do you regard as the milestones that you have achieved as a party?
Since its inception or since the post?
No, since its inception.
Well, it's a lot of things that the party has actually accomplished. Mm-hmm. The very thing that today we have, this party and that party and that party, it all came from us. We are the original party. We are the party that gave the country its name, for crying out loud. Mm-hmm. There's no Zimbabwe without us. That's a fact. So the teachings, the trainings that was done beginning from, way before, even before, from 1960 all the way to, to 1980, people were taught things, Mr. Nkala. They were taught, self-reliance. They were taught to be farmers, to be teachers, to be engineers, you name it, everything was taught. Zapu was a government in waiting. Mm-hmm. There were so many things that we accomplished. I mean, ZANU might not talk about it today. People might not see it, on their day-to-day life that, Zapu did this, Zapu did this, Zapu did this. But the fact of the matter remains, we actually did those things. We led in all aspects of Zimbabwean life. All the, what, like for instance, the city of Bulawayo, was known for its, cleanliness, its good governance. I'm talking about post, from 1980 to, mm-hmm. Until recent. That city was well managed, for the most part, because mm-hmm. it had Zapu people in there that were trained, that were educated, that were disciplined, that were trying so hard to deliver on what Zapu stands for, what Zapu stood for even before. We stand for the same things that we stood for before. People might not think so highly about those things today because we never came into power. So what we stand for really did not manifest in the ways that perhaps a lot of people would have wanted, or what, in the ways that we would have wanted, obviously. Because as Zapu government governed Zimbabwe would have been a totally different from the nonsense that we are facing today. So we are very proud to have impacted the people the way we did. A lot of people know that even the most successful business people that strengthened Zimbabwe, the Ariston Chambatis of this world and many others, they came from our party. They learned discipline. They learned all those things from leading, within the Zapu structures. So I cannot imagine really a Zimbabwe without what Zapu brought to the table. We have so many accomplishments that, we're very, very proud of, actually.
Yeah, I think what is a great disservice to Zapu is its leadership, which does not really go to town with what they have done in the past. The problem is the young people don't know. And if you do not tell them, how do you expect them to know? So particularly now that Zapu has been successfully revived,
yes,
I think Zapu should start standing up and telling people exactly what it did, what it should have done if it came into power. People need to know all those kind of things.
Absolutely. I usually tell people that we actually have a blueprint to governing Zimbabwe. We still have it. And that blueprint is what we're going to use to govern the country. And remember, we come from an environment that was very, very restrictive. Now we have you, for example, with your television network. We have all the social media tools and platforms that we are now able to use to reach a lot of people. Yeah. So we are already doing that. I can tell you from coming from the marketing and communications arm of the party, that we are working very, very vigorously to put together a program that will be marketed very, very, very strongly across our social media platforms and our outreach program to reach people, the young people, educate them and let them know what kind of people we are, what kind of party we are, what we stand for, and what we believe, what we could have done had we come to power at that time, what we are going to do when we do come into power. Mm-hmm. We had our youngster here, Ukanisha Singala. You understand, how great a young man he is, the potential there. That's us. We're very proud of that. That is what the party does. That's what we are going to continue to do to move the party forward, is to train those young people, expose them to good information and let them succeed. A lot of them are succeeding already. Unkara is not the only one. There are many other young people that have benefited from the party and, the knowledge that the party has imparted to them. So you will continue to see the likes of Okanisha Singala being out there very aggressively, very equipped with knowledge and information and the skills to actually move the country forward. So I do not think it's just on the leadership that failed to reach people. The environment was not very conducive for ZANU-PF Broadcasting Corporation. Newspapers were totally controlled by ZANU-PF. The propaganda that was churned out by ZANU-PF was such that people really, really could not think for themselves. It's a lot of people that actually, if you come from Mashonaland, you know so little, about, Matebele, for example, everything that those people know, it came from ZANU-PF propaganda. The whole genocide that took place in Zimbabwe, in Matebeleland South, in Matebeleland, North and the Midlands, it was not known to some of the people in the country. You talk to people just on social media or just on social level, have a discussion. People will tell you that there was a civil war going on.
Ngala has just rejoined us. Mr. Ngala.
Wow.
Okay, yeah. I know we have moved on just a little bit, but I'm suspecting that maybe there was something that you wanted to say at that time. If you still want to, you can say it, then we move on.
Well, reflectively speaking on a position that you would say that Zapu is diplomatic, we are not diplomatic. We have moved to a position of action. It's very different being diplomatic and moving to a point of action. You see, in Zimbabwe, we've got this problem whereby we've got people that we call members of parliament. I think that word is wrongly used because they just become members and they don't even become legislators that we elect them for. So they become members of parliament. You're becoming a member of something. You can just become a silent member and never say anything and no one worries about that. So we need to get to a point whereby we understand why devolution reflectively is the action. We need a legislator. We need somebody who's going to stand for the rural people if he represents the rural people in a constituency. Let me talk about a complex constituency like Wanda Central. Wanda Central has got 10 wards that are in town. Those are former municipalities. But at the same time, it's got rural. In rural, you've got 2 rural, very rural. And then you've got 1 that is mixed, what farms and rural. Then 2 that are mixed, mines and farms. And those are supposed to be under one member of parliament who needs to understand that he has to actually manage an urban area, at the same time a rural area, at the same time a farming and rural area, at the same time a mining and a rural area, a mining and farming, where in the mining there is cement, there is gold in one place, then on the other one there is farms, then there is gold only.
Yeah, okay, thanks very much. We had already moved to our next topic, which is, what do you think have been the milestones that Zapu has achieved since its inception?
The major milestone is to be able to actually remove colonialism. That is number 1. Colonialism was removed because of Zapu and its forces, the Zebra. And then the major milestone also to ensure that at whatever cost, Zapu does not compromise on its peacefulness. At whatever cost, Zapu does not compromise on its peacefulness. No matter how aggressive the opponent became, Zapu said, we will try by all means to keep our cool. It's not something that is easy to do. And I know, in as much as you can be a giant and then a very small young man is busy kicking you, and you decide not to clap him because by one clap you can kill him. But you decide not to clap him because your intention was never 1, to fight, 2, never to kill anyone. So it's a milestone that somebody might see as having been foolish. But I think when we saw the repeat in 2008 of the violence of that nature by ZANU-PF now on MDC, we saw the same MDC that would have said to Zapu, why did you not strike back? Not striking back. Also peaceking the peacefulness that Zapu had taught. So now in Zimbabwe, even whatever, now the people from those areas that did not know that Ukuraundi happened, they understand when we now reflect and say, Ukuraundi never ended and it will never end. It becomes a weapon in ZANU-PF's game. It's going to kill certain people and hide information so that when you say that something happened, I will then stand up and say you're lying because it did not happen in my area.
Yeah, thank you for that. Let us move on to the next big topic, which is on the journey. Usually organizations face hindrances. What would you say have been Zapu's greatest hindrances? Since
allow Jamila to take the ones that were there before, and I'll take the last one.
Yeah, that's fine.
How kind of you, Mr. Nkali. Yes. Well, obviously, at the beginning, it was the colonialist himself. So, for starters, I mean, we are talking about a period of the early 50s, 1960s, right through to the 70s. You are facing an armed government that is determined to hold on to power by all means. That was the Smith regime. So that was the biggest hindrance. Number 2, the country at the time was not as connected as it is today. It was not easy to disseminate information from one province to the next. So those challenges were actually huge. People might not understand it today because you pick up the phone and call somebody in this part of the country or that part of the country with no problem. You even get on a call, on a video call, and actually get to see what the other person is talking about. But back then, that was not the case. So that in itself was a huge, huge hindrance that we had to deal with, because you are trying to build an organization and a movement, but just moving from one area to the next is so difficult. Just passing information from this region to the next is so challenging. But we survived that, and were able to build this massive, massive party that was able to either, to force the regime to its knees. Without Zapu and Zipra forces, the Smith government might be in power today. So there were so many hindrances, lack of education. We didn't have as many educated people as we do today. So you can imagine just the few that were educated, that were trying to actually communicate this big picture to a community that did not quite, understand the new governance system that was being proposed. You have to remember that the white men had tried so hard to subjugate the people to a point that some had actually given up. They were kind of, content at that point with the white rule. Same situation that we have today. Some, fortunately, some have not. But some have given up on fighting ZANU because, they feel like, they're not winning. All those things are not new. We've had to deal with those situations, for so many years before, and we're still dealing with them today. So those are some of the major hindrances that we had to deal with. We were dealing with, remember at that time, the major world powers, the US, the West versus the East at the time, had their own battles that were being fought, and we were used as proxies by us, Africans and other smaller nations. So whatever we're trying to accomplish or achieve was also viewed, from the lenses of, is it pro-West or is it pro-East? You understand what I'm saying? So we had to actually deal with those factors that had nothing to do with us. An average person, did not care about the West or the East. All they wanted was colonialism off their necks. But they found themselves having to fight, a local situation and a larger picture, situation with the West versus the East, us being caught in the middle. So those were major, major, major hindrances. And then you talk about the introduction of tribalism, because tribalism was not an issue, to the extent that it is today. So it was introduced partly, by the white people to divide and rule. And then came the people that saw that as an opportunity to also benefit out of it. They split and formed their own parties on tribal grounds to exploit, tribes, for their own benefits. Those are major, major issues that Zapu has had to deal with. We still had to remain focused on the big picture. We couldn't be, sidetracked and start chasing all these people, fighting this and fighting that. We had to continue being cool, like Nkala was saying, and focus on the bigger picture, which was to deliver a Zimbabwe that was going to be good for everybody.
Okay, Mr. Nkala?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
While we take a look at this, I would want you to look at it in this way. We have had major hiccups, as he talks about, in the long run, but the major problem was the adoption of tribalism and the adoption of a divisionist system by our our new black government, our new black list, that became a major challenge in the sense that if you take a look at a reflection of opposition leaders that have been there, you might discover that opposition leaders that were not coming from from Matebeleland were either coming from Manikaland. Have you ever discovered that? Tsangirai, where does it come from? Makoni, where does it come from?
Okay, yeah.
Story, where was he coming from?
Yeah.
Tekere, where was he coming from? Tekere was coming from Manikaland.
Okay.
So one will ask themselves, even today, one of the opposition guys, so-called close to the ruling party, this Monzora guy, where is he coming from? Manikaland.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody adopted. After adopting that, it has had a reflection. When Manikaland has been kicked out of ZANU-PF, which is what was done, Manikaland and Mashonaland Central were kicked out of ZANU-PF by the Mashonaland East guys, that is the Zezuru and the Vitori guys. Then the Vitori guys hit a coup on the Zezuru guys. So now the Zezuru guys are starting to understand that adoption of tribalism and then the practice of it on you is very painful than you practicing it on somebody else. So the major challenges that we have is a lack of understanding of really what was politics that we're talking about. The major hindrance is the understanding of what is a revolution. A revolution is not an overnight fight. It's not something that you win overnight. It's a journey that you pass on to the next generation. It's a journey that you teach even to the new generation to say, listen, I might have been fighting with the Tulani, but Tulani is still my brother, isn't it? So the fact that I was fighting with Tulani might not be reflective of me and Tulani not being brothers. We are brothers. It won't change. So you people will still remain one family. You can't. If it was about land, has the land question been resolved? Was it resolved with everybody being happy? No. Why? Because somebody at one point was taking the side of the colonialists, not to distribute the land. You see? So now it was personal issues, no longer about the struggle. So the 60 years of what we've been going through has been sometimes in silence, learning, sometimes underground, learning, coming back to the top to say what needs to be said. Because one will ask, do we all know, or does everybody know, that each and every member of parliament gets something called a constituency development fund? No, they don't. Do people know what a constituency development fund is for? No, they don't. But Zapu teaches us that. What is a constituency development fund? If I'm going to be an MP, do I need to be rich? No, I don't need to be rich. I need to represent the people. And I need to know what is for the people and what is for me. Then we fight corruption.
But I still have two or so questions to ask. This has been a very interesting discussion. I wish we had more and more. I would like you, but I think both of you, to reflect on this. On the issue of the genocide, which happened from 1982 up to 1987. That's the physical genocide. But also reflect on the psychological and cultural genocide, which is still ongoing now. Also, while you're doing that, reflect on the unit accord and the withdrawal from the unit accord. I think these are the important issues that we need to tackle within these 12 minutes. Mr. Chamel.
Very, very important indeed. Very important indeed. On the issue of the genocide, I mean, how painful, how painful. I always, talk to people in South Africa. They are so pained by Marikana, rightfully so. I tell them that we had Marikana happening, in Matebeleland and the Midlands every day for 5 years. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's Americana happening in Matebeleland and the Midlands for 5 years, every day.
Yeah.
Every single day. over 30 people being killed every single day. Think about that.
Yeah.
So if I reflect on it, I'm a survivor of that period. I mean, it impacted me directly. So my reflection on it is rather personal, So I can tell you that the impact of it is unimaginable, for the victims, because people were displaced. We can focus, like you say, there's the physical aspect of it, which is people were being killed. People were actually killed, And then there's people that were displaced from their homes. You know how important it is to have a home, something that you call your own, you go to. You can be gone, to Jersey for as long as you want, but you also want to go back to that place that you call home. When that is taken away from you by force, when you are forced to abandon everything, that has major, major psychological effects on you as a person and what you become after that. So the physical part of it was traumatic enough, but what happened thereafter and what is happening today is even worse, because of all the people that survived, the trauma is there. The sense of fear is immense. There are people who are not willing to even talk about it today, who are not even willing to take part in politics today because of what they experienced during that era. So the intended effects of it are real, because they are still pains, there are still fears that are going on in people's lives today because of what transpired during that time in the physical sense. So they are living with that. You talk about Zapu today, some people start shaking because the first thing that comes to their minds is Kukura Wundi, is, oh my God, what is ZANU-PF going to do to me now that we're talking about Zapu? You understand?
Yeah.
So the loss of development, the region was not developed because, one, it lost its, cream of the crop people. These people were targeting teachers, headmasters, agricultural, institute leaders, people that had impact on the community. They got rid of them. So the impact of that alone, without the government being, without the government not developing the area, the fact that you remove the expertise and you dispersed all those people into the region, South Africa, Botswana, Zambia, and wherever else. I'm sitting in the US here. So, I cannot even begin to talk about that, because it angers me so much that people don't understand how much damage that was done. Had the majority tribe understood that earlier on, a lot of things would have been avoided, because the reason why ZANU-PF is capable of killing people today continuously is because of what they did and got away with, during that era. Had Kukuraun not happened, we wouldn't have had Muramatswina, we would not have had all these other killings that now people from other provinces have had to experience. That's what they need to understand, that they are now facing those things because ZANU-PF got away with murder. Literally, they got away with murder. They are still getting away with it today. So we need to make sure that whatever we do, we need to get rid of these people completely out of power, as far away from power as possible. And most of them need to be rotting in jail for what they did.
Sankala.
Thank you very much. Looking at that and starting with the genocide itself, a genocide systematically, as it was physical in the beginning. And it being physical, it actually had a lot of people die. Because those people that died cannot be accounted for, and one does not find the reason to try to account for that, it makes the person to continuously go with impunity and continuously kill more people, have more people disappear, because where they disappeared the others, no one will know. So he was disappearing those people to where the others disappeared, because no one is going to dig. So it's now, these people managed to get the leverage. They got the strength from what they did. And because someone was backing them up, even now when they are doing it on their own, they have a system that has been entrenched. Violence has been entrenched in our society. And when Uba Uchamela says they were killing headmasters and community leaders and district leaders, it is when now they then come and mutilate our culture by mixing, taking a person from another tribe to come and lead a school where a child is supposed to be being taught by the person that they killed and disappeared, who was going to teach the child about the culture and what have you. And then they bring someone from another culture to come and teach that child the culture that is not for that child. To that. It connects to actually say they did the genocide and they knew what they were doing with the genocide. The next one was the non-violent or non-physical one, where they had to replace the ones they killed with the ones that were going to kill what is left, which is culture.
Mm-hmm.
And by so doing, when you kill people's culture and their language, they are dead even if they are walking. So these guys are doing this with impunity. Today, they are doing it with impunity in so many tribes. One will say, what an insult it was. Then when we talk about the Unity Accord, it's not, it's important to understand that the Unity Accord was not a personal a thing to do, because so many people think it was personal. It was in between Nkomo and Mkabi. No, it was not. It was in between Zapu and ZANU, and it was a Congress resolution that was to be taken. If somebody is to understand what a Congress resolution means, they will understand that a Congress resolution is not a leader's resolution. It is a collective resolution by the structures that are there for that party at that time. So it was taken at that time to save lives. Then after we discovered that the saving of lives had been done, but then 2008 reflectively, the military was again used, which was agreed that it will never be used. Zapu had no option but to say you have breached the agreement, you have used the military in killing people in Mashonaland West. You have used the military in securing power for somebody who had actually lost. You have used the military violently to maim and kill people like you did, and we ended up at Unity Accord. And they went into another unity for that. So one would ask a question. If you are saying that Zapu was wrong to pull out of Unity Accord, why did ZANU go into a Unity Accord with MDC without considering that it was in another Unity Accord?
Mm-hmm.
It was already a breach on its own when they went into another Unity Accord.
Yeah. All right.
One will also say, as we go to end it, it is important to understand that over the 60 years, the lessons have been painfully physical to Zimbabwe. One will remember in an answer and question that was done in 1986, where Josiah Chinamano answers Zapu and says to him, you want to create an executive president. You want to create a monster. Then Zapu says, you call my leader a monster. He says, no, remember, I know you are inclining yourself to take that position, but you will be disappointed one day, standing where you are, that you will be told that the opposition can take you, but it will not be Zapu. And that happened in 2000, when Mugabe said to the opposition, take Zapu. And Zapu cried. He did not cry because Mugabe had said that. He remembered what the late Josiah Chinamano had said to him in parliament. And some people will not understand what that means. The 60 years that we're coming to reflect on are a reflection of saying, if the 40 years of Zimbabwe is something to look at in terms of what the economy is. Whatever system was used must be changed because it has killed our country. It did not kill it for Zapu people. It did not kill it for any other people. It killed for everyone.
Everyone.
If this does not change, we'll get the same results. If this does not change, Zimbabwe will still be a dream to everyone to say, we wish one day we go back to Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe has money. It is not that much of a problem, but it's a curse. It's a case that one will not want to agree to. So we're saying to people on the 17th of December, sit and reflect, join the celebrations that are there. In South Africa, we'll be here at Dorothy Nyembe Park, which is in Soweto. Why? It's a significant city. Soweto is a significant city in terms of struggle, in terms of the struggle even of South Africa. And Africa, Southern Africa as a whole, will be celebrating at Dorothy Nyembe as the South Africa province. Yet back home there, they will be celebrating in Matsau, in the place where Balakwe is, in the place where most of the things happen. And all over the country, we are saying, even if you are alone, reflect on whether Zimbabwe is going somewhere or not. Leave this tribal politics, leave these tribal voting trends, leave this tribal in what planted seed that was meant to divide us, and think and ask yourself the question: if Zapu is 60 years, it fought a war for around 20 or 19 years, are we still ready to fight another war?
Mr. Chamela, if you've got some closing remarks, that would be great.
Okay. My closing remarks are on the direction that the party has taken after the recent Congress that we had. We have a lot of good things that we are doing. I'll continue to talk about the young stock that we have, as shown by our very own Kanisha Singala here. We have a lot of young people that are in great positions of power within our party now that are ready to move us forward. We had the same, crop of young people back then. We still have them today, and we're very proud that these young people are the ones that are going to take us to where we are going. We are also appealing to all the other young people out there that please, please, please do not sit on your future. Do not sit on it. Come out, join us, walk with us, fight with us. It is about you. It's not about us. It's about you as a people, as a person. Fight for your own right, register to vote, and go out there and vote in 2023. Vote for Zapu. The message is simple, it's clear. Vote for Zapu. A Zapu government will turn things around. We hold the blueprint for governing Zimbabwe. Only us have that blueprint and nobody else. We are the ones that can, right this ship. Please go out, register to vote, and come out in numbers and vote for the party. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, gentlemen. This has been a great reflective session. I wish we had more time. I really appreciate your presence here today. I hope we will have another time to reflect again. I wish Zap his happy birthday on the 17th of December. Yeah, thanks very, very, very much, gentlemen. We will talk again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.